On Global TV News Prime, President Bola Tinubu approves funds for the commencement of 125-kilometer Akwanga-Jos Superhighway. And in business, federal government has commenced distribution of 150 trucks of subsidized fertilizer to farmers in Kano. And on the foreign scene, Amnesty International accused Sudan's rapid support forces of committed crimes against humanity. And in sports, President Bola Tinubu charged Nigeria's 72 athletes to complete with discipline, unity, and Commonwealth Games. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276 plus Free TV. Now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate release of 111 billion for the commencement of the 125-kilometer Akwanga-Jos section of the Akwanga-Jos Bauchi-Gombe-Biu-Maiduguri Superhighway. The Minister of Works, David Umahi, disclosed this during the project's flag-off in Akwanga, Nasarawa State, where he reviewed that the President's instructions where that the funds should be released to the CGOC-CGC joint venture, the project's contractor, to commence construction immediately. To underscore the strategic importance of the highway and the urgency attached to its delivery, President Tinubu described the project as a major step in the administration's drive to strengthen road infrastructure, enhance regional connectivity, and stimulate economic development. The federal government has welcomed the suspension of the teachers' strike in Oyo State, describing the decision as a victory for dialogue and a major step towards restoring uninterrupted learning in public schools. This was contained in a statement issued by the Director of Press and Public Relations at the Federal Ministry of Education, Boriwo Folashade. The government said the resolution followed sustained engagements involving the Federal Ministry of Education, the Oyo State government, and the leadership of the Nigerian Union of Teachers at the national, zonal, and state level, leading to the return of teachers to classroom across the state. The federal government says credible data remains critical to improving planning, budgeting, monitoring, and learning outcomes across Nigeria's education sector. Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa made this known at the official launch of the Digital National Education Management Information System (DNMS) in Abuja. Priscilla Obasi reports. Bring you that report in our subsequent bulletin. Now to the next story. The Minister of Youth Development, Oyedele Olawande, has confirmed that one of the very first approved for the National Youth Service Corps, that is NYSC, will replace the scheme's traditional khaki uniform with Adire fabric. Olawande said the change is designed to promote local manufacturing and ensure government spending support the Nigerian economy. Olawande also disclosed that under the ongoing restructuring of the NYSC, corps members will increasingly be posted according to their fields of study and professional qualifications. He explained that graduates with educational-related qualifications, for instance, would be deployed to schools instead of the current system where posted are not always based on specialization. The Federal High Court in Abuja affirmed the leadership of the African Democratic Congress, headed by former Senate President David Mark, dismissing a suit filed by a member of the House of Representatives, Leke Abijide, challenging the party's leadership structure. Delivering judgment, Justice Musa Liman held that the suit lacked merit and was not justifiable because it relates to the internal affair of a political party. The court upheld the preliminary objection filed by the ADC, its former national chairman, Ralph Mosu, the incumbent national chairman, David Mark, and the party's National Secretary, Rauf Aregbesola. Justice Liman ruled that Abejide failed to establish that any of his legal rights had been violated by the emergence of the current leadership. Troops of Sector 2 of the Joint Task Force Northwest Operation Fasan Yama have dismantled an illegal arms factory in Kebbi State, recovering 5 locally fabricated AK-47 rifle and arresting 2 suspected gun makers allegedly supplying weapons to terrorist group. The operation, which the military said was based on credible intelligence, targeted a scheduled compound alleged use by the suspect to manufacture and stockpile firearms. The military noted that the raid formed part of ongoing effort to destroy terrorist logistics and curb the proliferation of illicit weapons across the Northwest. The federal government has reclaimed about 3,000 hectares of degraded land across frontline states worst affected by desertification and environmental degradation. The Minister of Environment, Balarabe Abbas Lawal, represented by the Director of the Department of Desertification, Land Degradation and Drought Management, Etim Williams, disclosed these at a 3-day stakeholders workshop on the 2026 National Reporting on the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification Strategic Objectives held in Abuja. Samuel Odi reports.
The Minister of Environment, Balarabe Abbas Lawal, represented by the Director of the Department of Desertification, Land Degradation and Drought Management, Etim Williams, says the intervention forms part of Nigeria's commitment to restoring the degraded ecosystem and combating the growing threats of deserted encroachments. He noted that the reclaimed lands will boost agricultural productivity, improve livelihoods, and strengthen environmental sustainability in vulnerable communities.
The ministry alone, we can say that we have restored well over 3,000 hectares of degraded land within the frontline states.
The representative of Food and Agriculture Organization, Luis Garcia, highlighted the importance of sustained investment and international collaboration in achieving the targets, while reaffirming support to reverse land degradation and promote sustainable land management practice in Nigeria.
And we are now trying to solve this gap, making all the stakeholders together to have a more realistic assessment of how bad is the problem. That is the whole purpose of this exercise, is to make a map of land degradation and make a national estimate that can be trusted so we can make decisions on this data.
The national report is expected to support policy formulation and provide measurable indications for tracking progress in land restoration efforts across the country. Samuel Odi, Global TV News.
With heavy rains already pounding communities across Nigeria, residents of the Federal Capital Territory are raising fresh concern over the threat of flooding and calling for immediate action to avert another season of destruction. Zarau Nasir reports.
As rainfall becomes heavier and more frequent, fears of flooding are rapidly growing in many parts of the country. Experts attribute the trend to climate change, which they say has altered rainfall patterns and triggered more intense downpours, capable of displacing families, destroying property and crippling livelihoods. Residents of the Federal Capital Territory insist that while government must strengthen flood prevention measures and improve infrastructure, citizens also have a critical role to play in protecting the environment.
It's actually the intervention of government to intervene and help a lot of states for the issue of flooding across all the 30 states. That is what I think it should, if possible.
Yeah, about the flooding all over our states like Niger, Benue State, and what of you, we have to be very careful about the flooding, because if water come, you cannot even think whether you are rich or you are poor. You cannot take it for granted. But you know that people are passing through a lot. So if the government tell them something like this, because of the things that they are passing through, they don't even care. If you can remember 2 days back, there are things that happened in Ghana. Yes. If you watch all those videos, you see that if you see that people properties, businesses go down. So we have to be very careful of this.
Across several communities, blocked drainage channels, indiscriminate waste disposal, and illegal construction on waterways continue to worsen the impact of heavy rainfall. Many residents say these human activities have turned seasonal rains into recurring disasters, leaving homes submerged and roads cut up year after year.
Because this is the right time to start preparing for it. Because places like Benue State, Kogi, Lagos, and Kano, they usually experience flooding. So I think government should intervene, and people should also avoid throwing waste into the drainages so that they will not be blockade and cause some of these floodings. So I think prevention is better than cure, so they say.
With focus pointing to more rainfall in the coming weeks, residents are urging authorities at all levels to move swiftly on preventive measures while calling on Nigerians to embrace responsible environmental practices to reduce the risk of flooding. Zahra Unasr, Global TV News.
The federal government says credible data remains critical to improving planning, budgeting, monitoring, and learning outcomes across Nigeria's education sector. Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, made this known at the official launch of the Digital National Education Management Information System in Abuja. Priscilla Obasi reports.
The meeting, presided over by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, brought together heads of education agencies, development partners, state commissioners for education, vice-chancellors, and other stakeholders in the education sector. The minister said the Digital National Education Management Information System is aimed at transforming education planning through reliable real-time data, noting that the platform will improve transparency, accountability, and evidence-based decision-making process across Nigeria's education sector.
Also helping to support those data being domiciled in the country. Data sovereignty is what it's called. You have almost 15 people full-time working here in Nigeria. I know you started with HEAD, the District Health Information System and Software. But I bet you, I'm going to tell you that your migration to education is actually one of the biggest decisions that you took that will impact many countries.
Speaking on behalf of development partners, UNICEF Education Specialist Saka Ibrahim reaffirmed UNICEF's commitment to supporting Nigeria's education data reforms, stressing that quality data is essential to improving learning outcomes and ensuring that no child is left behind.
One good unique thing that the Honorable Minister of Education has brought to the system is to identify the profile of every learner, their details, and they have unique identifier that can be linked to their movement. They are moving from one school to the other, or they are moving from one local government to the other, or from one state to the other. Because of that unique identifier, that child will be tracked throughout the entire basic and senior secondary education.
National Project Coordinator of Special Programs, Operations and Implementation Unit, Adebayo Onibanjo, explained that NEMIS is the flagship platform under the Nigeria Education Data Infrastructure, NEDI. According to him, the system will digitize the annual school census, harmonize education records across the country, and make credible data available for planning, policy formulation, and improved service delivery. The digital platform is designed to replace fragmented education data systems with a unified national database capable of tracking schools, learners, teachers, and education investment in real time. Priscilla Obasi, Global Television News.
You're watching the live broadcast of News Prime. News Prime continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Hello there. We're set for another active weather day across Nigeria. Overnight thunderstorms is expected to leave behind light morning rains across many cities in the central areas and parts of the southern region, while the extreme northern region is expected to be calm weather-wise with mostly partly cloudy to cloudy skies. But by afternoon and into evening, thunderstorms are likely to become more widespread, affecting parts of Bauchi, Gombe, Taraba, some parts of Kano, Katsina, Kebbi and Sokoto. In the south, expect moderate to heavy rainfall, particularly along the coastal line of the country, to affect parts of Rivers, Bayelsa, Cross River, some parts of Delta and Lagos State. Southern parts of Kogi, Benue and Kwara should also prepare for periods of moderate rainfall. As always, if you're commuting or planning outdoor activities, keep your rain gear close, drive carefully on wet roads and watch out for areas prone to flooding. That's your weather forecast for Friday. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back from that break. Now to the business news. The Kano State government has commenced with the distribution of 150 trucks of subsidized fertilizer to farmers across the state's 44 local government areas in preparation for the 2026 wet farming season. Global TV correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that the initiative is aimed at boosting agricultural productivity and strengthening food security across the states.
Hundreds of farmers, government officials and stakeholders gathered for the official flag-off of the 2026 fertilizer distribution program. The initiative is part of the Kano State government's efforts to support farmers with subsidized agricultural inputs and increase food production across the state. Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf says his administration remains committed to revitalizing agriculture, describing the sector as the backbone of Kano's economy. He says the fertilizer distribution program will benefit farmers in all 44 local government areas.
Today, we are distributing a total of 150 trucks containing 90,000 bags of fertilizer to the 44 local government areas that will also be distributed to 484 wards across the state. This translates to an average of 3 trucks per local government, with each ward having 70 beneficiaries.
To ensure the fertilizer reaches Janeau's farmers, the Kano State government has enlisted the support of anti-corruption and security agencies to monitor the distribution process. Officials say the move is aimed at preventing diversion, hoarding, and other sharp practices.
The reason why we are here is to monitor and to distribute this fertilizer to the beneficiaries.
Representative of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, Abbas Jahun, says the fertilizer distribution program aligns with the federal government Renewed Hope agenda. He notes that strengthening support for farmers through timely access to agricultural inputs is essential to increasing food production.
The National Agricultural Development Fund, under the Input Support Program, is donating 8,000 bags of fertilizer to Kano State.
Farmers who benefited from the product commend the state government for the intervention, noting that access to affordable fertilizer will help reduce production costs and improve harvest.
With the planting season already on the way, the success of this intervention will largely depend on how quickly the fertilizer reaches farmers across the 44 local government areas of the state. But the state government says it has put in place measures to ensure transparency and accountability throughout the distribution process. From Kano, Idris Jubrin, Global Television News.
The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has joined forces with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission in warning oil marketers against proliferating and arbitrary increase in the pump prices of petroleum products. The authority's warning is coming 3 days after the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Oil, Henneken Lakpobiri directed the authority to intensify surveillance across the downstream sector and ensure that Nigerians benefit from the recent fall in global crude oil price. Lakpobiri gave the directive at the authority's General Council and Legal Advisor Forum in Abuja. And now on the foreign scene, Ireland has reaffirmed its support for Ukraine as it begins its 6-month presidency of the European Council. During a visit to Dublin, Irish Prime Minister Michael Martin pledged continued political, financial and military backing for Kyiv, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned of intelligence indicating another large-scale Russian attack. Mukhtar Kasim reports.
Ireland's Prime Minister Michael Martin used the opening of his country's European Union presidency to assure Ukraine of continued support in its war against Russia. Martin also reaffirmed Ireland's backing for Ukraine's bid to join the European Union, saying Dublin would work to advance Kyiv's accession talks during its 6-month presidency.
As Ireland takes up the EU presidency today, I pledge our steadfast support for Ukraine. We will work to ensure you continue to receive the political, financial and military support Ukraine needs to resist Russia's aggression. We will work to continue the disbursement of the European Union support loan.
President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomed the support but disclosed that Ukrainian intelligence had detected preparations for another large-scale Russian strike, prompting him to cut short his visit and return home immediately.
What you asked about the Poland and the Polish government, we are neighbors. And I'm sure, of course, we had difficulties in our history, but you know, mostly countries in Europe had difficulties in the past. But we live now. Now we have one aggressor, and now we have unanimity, and we are defending EU.
The meeting comes as the war enters its 5th year, with Ukraine seeking sustained international backing while remaining on high alert against renewed Russian attacks. Mukhtar Kasim, Global TV News.
Amnesty International has accused Sudan's Rapid Support Forces of committing crime against humanity and ethnic cleansing during attacks on El Fasher, warning that similar atrocities could spread if the international community fails to act. The right group is calling for urgent measures to protect civilians and prevent the conflict from escalating further. Here's Mukhtar Kasim with the details.
Amnesty International says its investigations found that the RSF carried out widespread killings, torture, rape, forced displacement, and persecution during its campaign to seize El Fasher between 2024 and 2025. The organization says the pattern of attacks may amount to genocide and warns civilians in North and South Kordofan remain at risk.
What our report describes is a playbook to harm people, to kill and displace them. It is a war on civilians. What our report describes is the RSF range of tactics they are implementing or will implement in North Kordofan's El Obeid and in Kadugli and Diling of South Kordofan if the international community fails to respond and act.
The report, based on interviews with 247 victims and witnesses, alleges that the RSF deliberately targeted communities based on ethnicity and gender. Amnesty is urging an immediate ceasefire, stronger international intervention, and enforcement of the arms embargo on Sudan.
What genocide demands, if there is risk of genocide, there is a real obligation on the part of state to prevent it. That is why I think the UN panel made the conclusion that it is making. That is why as well Amnesty International is talking about the fact that the crimes and the investigations may be relevant to the crimes of genocide. We are invoking now the responsibility to prevent genocide.
Sudan has been engulfed in war since April 2023, with both army and the RSF accused of serious human rights violations. Amnesty International warns that without swift action, civilians in other parts of the country could face similar attacks. Mukhtar Qasim, Global TV News.
And now in sport, police in Taiwan have seized more than $300 million in World Cup bet after busting an illegal online betting ring, authorities said on Thursday. Taiwan did not qualify for the World Cup, but many people on the sporting mad island are football fans. Police raided a house in the southern city of Tainan on Wednesday. A Tainan City Police Department's 4th Precinct said in a statement they arrested 8 people and seized computers, mobile phones, ledgers, and cash, the statement said. As Global TV News Prime come to an end, let's look at our top stories. President Bola Tinubu has approved the immediate release of 111 billion for the commencement of the 125-kilometer Akwanga-Jos section of the Akwanga-Jos Bauchi-Gombe-Biu Maiduguri Superhighway. And in business, we told you that the Kano State government had commenced the distribution of 150 trucks of subsidized fertilizer to farmers across the state's 44 local government areas in preparation for the 2026 wet farming season. And on the foreign scene, Amnesty International has accused Sudan's Rapid Support Forces of committing crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing during attack on El Fasher, warning that a similar atrocity could spread if the international community failed to act. And finally, from the World Sport, President Bola Tinubu has charged Nigeria's 72 athletes contingents to the Commonwealth Games to compete with discipline, unity, and determination as the National Sport Commission unveiled the official Team Nigeria apparel ahead of the competition. And as the news prime, here's a quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times channel 276, and Free TV. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. I am Ramsey Enoch Abo. Thank you for watching.